David, I wanted to start, punters who don't know, I mean, certainly what we've been very impressed with working closely with David Gately is just the amount of information and quality information that comes to the analysis. Video analysis, the sectionals data. I mean, punters who see some of the stuff you put out in Twitter sphere or any other social media medium that would have to be impressed by some of the stuff where you compare runners and so forth. So there's no doubt, I think, in punters' minds, one of the best at just finding out who the most capable animal is in the race. I guess the question we want to ask today, David, is how do you put that capability factor together with some of the race factors on the day, whether they be speed maps or whether they be perceived track bias or any other factors that may stop the most capable horse from winning the race?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that the bottom line is we can simplify it by saying that it is a race, and then these are athletes. So I think if you imagine a pie, and I think a majority of that pie would have to be the ability for a horse to have some sort of speed. So as an athlete, whether it's 100 meters at the Olympics or a marathon, they need to be fast at some point of the race. Now, some like a Nature Strip does it early. Others like a Chautauqua does it late, but they're elite with their speed and some can sustain a mid-race as well. So I think that speed element's really vital, and that comes down to a lot of the data that you speak of, that sort of information. Now, all the other pieces of the pie are relevant. You talked about track bias, wet and dry tracks, Caulfield, left-handed, right-handed, Rosehill, and interference, barrier draws. They are all part of the puzzle. And that's when price factors in, I think. So I looked at is a great example on Saturday, the Caulfield Guineas. Everyone was saying, Artorius is drawn in, he can't win. Animo's drawn out, he can't win. The two best athletes probably should have run 1-2 if Artorius doesn't miss the start.
Yep.
So I think I tend to always default to the best athlete and then work around backwards from that.
Hey, Dino, I wanted to start by talking about speed maps, and some punters, a lot of punters that know, some may not, but Deane Lester's race day package is really a great accompaniment for anyone on any Melbourne racing day on Saturday, especially in all the big race days. And one of the reasons for that is it contains Deane Lester's speed maps. But I know from previous discussions, Dino, it's more about your gate and your gate speed and so forth. And I was just wondering if you could talk us through what are some of the factors that you consider when you put together your speed maps and try and predict what the race shape might be.
Yeah, exactly. Don't always look at a horse's position in running. It might have raced on the pace because it's drawn good gates 5 times in a row. Then it draws wide. Will they take that and go forward, or will they go back because of the wide draw? Certain riders have different intent. I always put Craig Williams a bit closer in the speed map because he likes to just try and get that bit closer. Glenn Boss, much the same. So you've got those sort of factors. But ultimately, it's a guide, and it's trying to just envisage how a race would be run. It started in very primitive form in about 2001, drawing little lines next to the names on a Herald Sun form guide, and from there we've developed it into spreadsheets, and hopefully a really good guide to the punters. It's trying to picture what a race is going to look like, and if you get that picture, then you might actually see who's going to get the best run and maybe who's going to be the winner.
Yeah, look, it's certainly the feedback we get, Dean, from punters, the army of punters who use that as a tool on race day, that it's certainly doing the job. And look, one of the other aspects of the race day package that really differentiates it from a lot of others is your betting plan, or staking plan, as some might call it. Now, Dean, what we note in that is that you're not always tipping or putting a staking plan together for every race. And then in some races, you're actually taking more than one runner, and you're actually staking against more than one runner. I wanted to start with that first, Dino. What goes into your thinking? What is the deciding factor to put more than one runner in a race, and the various staking against that?
Okay, so if it's often, I might take 2 runners and one will be more favoured, so you might have a high percentage on it. you might bet to win a certain amount. You're looking at the odds of a morning. If I take an example of Saturday, one that probably skipped through was that Forgot You was $1.80 and heading towards $1.65 in the morning. And I didn't put it in the staking plan, but it paid $2.10. So they're the sort of ones that, if you're sort of agile on the day, you could probably play. But when you're talking about the more than one runner in a race, often, even if I had three in a race, you might have one that you look at it and you say, gee, I'd hate to lose on this race if this horse won. Yeah. So it's just a break square. So if you're thinking you've got $30 and it's a $3 chance, you might have your $10 on it. You might have another one that's $7 and you might have $12 on it. And your other $8 might be on an $8 chance. So you've got a good result with one win, a nice result with the other, and a break even with the other. So you're backing three horses, in essence, against the field. And two of them for a profit, one to break square. The rest of the field win, well, you lose. And that's how I look at it. The staking plan, I put it into try and make it around what I say 100 units or $100 if it was $100 spend on a day. But you might be a bigger punter than that. So if you spend 300 on a Saturday, everything I say you'd multiply by 3.
Yeah.
So that's how I roughly work it out and try and work it that the best bet of the day, probably more than half of the time, if it wins, it nearly covers the day.
Look, you've been referred to as the form analyst machine. I think you've probably seen some of these references, whether it be on social media, so forth. I heard one part of it say once, which is probably not far from the truth, that I think the form you do in a week probably equates to an average punter's form in a year. Can you just take us through, I guess, a week, and I guess what we're interested in with those sort of Wednesday and Saturday broadcast days, and give us a bit of an idea of the prep that goes into that. I think what's noted is, whenever Marto asks you a question or whatever about a horse and its credentials and so forth, obviously very quick with the commentary, which tells punters that you've done your homework. And we'll talk a bit more about your stats in a second, which probably talks to it more. But what goes into that? What's going on behind the scenes there through the week, Tony, for in a lead up to a broadcast day?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important to look at the races. Obviously, okay, you can come up with your ratings and all permutations of data, but the horse to me is the most important part of it all. Yeah. So I like to think I've got a semi sort of photographic memory for horses. Once I've seen a horse a couple of times, and if it's a beautifully bred horse or something, they can just be remembered straight away. But they're all individuals, and if you apply yourself to it, you can soak it all in and recognise these horses when they're going around in races. Yeah. So I tend to sort of review the weekend's races on the Monday. I record all the mounting yards, so if I get a chance, I'll put the notes in the database. I run 2 databases. I've got one for form, and I've got another one called a graph database, where it's more like Excel for words. Right. So you tend to run most of the words through this database, and it links up when horses are going around, trainers, things like this. So I'd sort of combine the two, and that's all stored. And once we get the acceptances for Wednesday or Saturday, I start off with the trials. I do most of my form through a spreadsheet. Like, I've got the computer with all the data, but I construct a spreadsheet itself on each of the meetings, and that just gives me a bit of I do my race maps on the spreadsheet. And that gives you a bit of a helicopter view of your race map in combination with the trainer and the jockey and the gates and things like this, recent form, of course. It just gives you an overview of the spreadsheet. So to me, that's the core component of the way I go about it. And then you'll fine-tune some videos and look at some more trials. It's sort of ongoing until you get to the scratchings, and off you go.